My name is Dave Carter, and 3 hours ago I thought I had a decent marriage. Now I'm sitting in my garage at 11:47 p.m., watching my wife's designer clothes burn in a metal trash can while neighbors peek through their curtains like I'm hosting the world's most depressing block party. But let me back up to where this train wreck started. I'm 37, work in IT support for a mid-sized insurance company, and drive a Honda Civic that's older than some of my coworkers. My wife Melissa is 34, works in marketing for a boutique agency downtown, and drives a BMW lease that costs more than my monthly salary. We've been married 8 years, together for 10, and until tonight, I thought we were doing okay. Sure, Melissa's always been obsessed with social media. Instagram stories, Facebook posts, TikTok dances in our kitchen that made me want to hide in the basement. She's got 12,000 followers who hang on her every word about skincare routines and weekend brunches. I've got 43 followers, mostly co-workers, and my mom. Tonight was her friend Brittany's 30th birthday party at some trendy bar downtown. I was supposed to go but came down with what Melissa called convenient food poisoning, and I called not wanting to spend $200 watching people take pictures of their drinks. So I stayed home with leftover pizza and Netflix, which honestly sounded perfect. Around 10:30, I was scrolling through Instagram while some action movie played in the background. That's when I saw Melissa's story pop up. She was going live, which she did sometimes when she'd had a few drinks and wanted to show off whatever restaurant or bar she was at. I clicked on it expecting to see her and her friends doing their usual tipsy girl talk. Instead, I got a front row seat to my own humiliation. The video was shaky, clearly being held by someone who'd had more than a few cocktails. I could see Melissa and her usual crew gathered around a high-top table. Brittany, the birthday girl with her fake blonde hair and fake everything else. Alicia, who worked at some startup and never shut up about yoga. And Tara, who'd never liked me and made sure I knew it. Okay, Brittany was saying, her voice slurred and way too loud. Let's rate guys from our past. Like, brutally honest. No filter. The camera swung around the bar, landing on random guys. A guy in a business suit got a 7. Some college-aged kid in a backwards cap got a 5. They were cackling like hyenas, and I could see other people in the bar starting to stare. Then Tara, that vindictive witch, grinned at the camera and said, "What about your husband, Mel? What's Dave rate?" My stomach dropped. I actually paused the video, stared at my phone screen, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Part of me wanted to close the app, pretend I never saw it, but I had to know. I hit play. Melissa looked directly into the camera, swayed a little, and without hesitation said, "Dave? Oh God, Dave's like a 3. Maybe a 3.5 if he's wearing that one shirt I bought him." The table erupted in laughter. Brittany nearly fell off her stool. Alicia spit out her drink. But Melissa wasn't done. "I mean, seriously," she continued, gesturing wildly with her martini glass. "I love him, but let's be real. If I met Dave today, at this bar, I wouldn't even give him my number. I'd probably pretend to go to the bathroom and sneak out the back." More laughter. Someone in the background of the video said, "Oh my God, Melissa." Tara leaned into the frame. "So why'd you marry him?" Melissa shrugged, took a long sip of her drink, and said the words that ended our marriage. "Honestly, he's safe, stable, good with money. But God, sometimes I just want to feel alive, you know? Like, when's the last time a guy made my heart race? Dave makes my heart rate go down." The comments on the live stream were exploding. People I knew, people from our neighborhood, co-workers, family members, everyone watching my wife rate me like a piece of meat and find me severely lacking. I sat there in my living room, still wearing the ratty t-shirt and sweatpants that apparently made me a 3 out of 10, and felt something inside me snap. Not break, snap, like a rubber band stretched too far. I opened Facebook on my laptop and clicked on my relationship status. Changed it from married to Melissa Carter to single. Added a status update. Sometimes you don't know where you stand until someone tells 12,000 strangers exactly where you stand. Thanks for the clarity, honey. Then I shared the link to her Instagram live stream. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text messages, calls, notifications. But I ignored all of it and got to work. First, I called our bank. Melissa and I had joint accounts, but I'd set them up and my name was primary on everything. I told them I needed to freeze her cards immediately due to suspected fraud. The night service rep was surprisingly helpful. Next, I went upstairs and started gathering Melissa's things: clothes, shoes, makeup, all those expensive skincare products she was always posting about. I carried load after load down to the front yard and dumped everything on the lawn. Mrs. Patterson from next door came out in her bathrobe. "Dave, what on earth are you doing?" "Spring cleaning," I said, tossing a pile of designer jeans onto the grass. "Little late in the year, but better late than never." She looked at the growing pile of women's clothing and accessories, then at me, and her expression shifted from confusion to understanding. "Oh, honey, what did she do?" "Rated me a 3 out of 10 on Instagram Live," I said, carrying out an armload of high heels. In front of 12,000 people, including my mom, apparently, based on the missed calls. Mrs. Patterson shook her head. "That girl never did deserve you." By the time I finished, our front yard looked like a high-end consignment shop had exploded. I stood there surveying my work when my phone rang. Brittany's name flashed on the screen. "Dave!" she shrieked when I answered. "What the hell are you doing? Your Facebook post is everywhere. Melissa's freaking out." "Is she?" I asked calmly. "How nice for her. She seemed pretty calm when she was telling the internet I was a 3. She was drunk. It was just girl talk. You're being crazy." "Crazy?" I laughed, and it didn't sound like my usual laugh. It sounded harder, colder. "Brittany, she broadcast my humiliation to 12,000 people. I'm just returning the favor to my 43 followers. Seems fair. She's trying to get home, but her Uber card isn't working." "Huh. That's weird. Maybe she should ask one of those 10s she was talking about for a ride." I hung up and went back inside. The house felt different now, quieter, cleaner somehow. My phone kept ringing. Melissa's friends, her sister, even my brother calling to ask what was going on. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I opened Instagram and started my own live stream. "Hey everyone," I said to my tiny audience of 12 people who'd joined. "So I just found out I'm a 3 out of 10. My wife was kind enough to share this information publicly, so I figured I'd share some information of my own." I flipped the camera around to show our front yard, now decorated with thousands of dollars worth of women's clothing and accessories. Turns out, being a 3 has its advantages, like not giving a damn about designer labels or keeping up appearances. Also, apparently being good with money, which is why I was able to freeze all our joint accounts about an hour ago. The viewer count was climbing. 20 people, 30, 50. For those just joining, my wife decided to rate guys on Instagram Live tonight. I got a 3. But you know what? I'm feeling more like a 10 right now, a 10 who's about to be single and a lot happier. A car pulled up to the curb. Melissa stumbled out of the passenger side, clearly still drunk, her face a mask of rage and panic. She started screaming before she even reached the yard. "David, what is wrong with you?" I ended the live stream and walked outside to meet my wife. Melissa stood in our driveway like a designer-dressed hurricane, her hair wild from the car ride, makeup smeared from what I assumed were tears of rage rather than remorse. She was still wearing the black cocktail dress she'd put on for the party, the one I'd complimented her on before she left, before I knew I was just a 3 commenting on a 10's outfit. "You psychotic asshole!" she screamed, loud enough that I could see lights coming on in windows up and down the street. "What is all this?" She gestured wildly at the yard sale explosion of her belongings scattered across our front lawn. A light breeze had picked up, and I watched one of her silk scarves flutter away like a very expensive tumbleweed. Spring cleaning, I said calmly. Figured I'd get rid of some dead weight. You can't just throw my stuff out. This is my house, too. Actually, I said, pulling my phone out and opening the voice recorder app. This house is in my name. I bought it before we got married, remember? You wanted to keep your apartment lease as a backup plan. Guess that worked out well for you. She lunged toward me, and for a second I thought she might actually try to hit me. Instead, she stumbled and nearly fell into a pile of her shoes. You're recording me? She shrieked. Seemed like a good idea. You like broadcasting private moments, right? I'm just following your lead. Mrs. Patterson had come back outside, this time with her husband Harold. The Johnsons from across the street were on their front porch. The college kids who rented the duplex on the corner were filming with their phones. Melissa's public humiliation of me was about to become her own very public meltdown. Dave, please, she said, and her voice shifted from rage to the wheedling tone she used when she wanted something. I was drunk. It was stupid girl talk. I didn't mean any of it. Which part didn't you mean? I asked. The part where I'm a 3? The part where you wouldn't give me your number if you met me today? Or the part where you married me because I'm safe and stable, but don't make your heart race? She looked around at our audience of neighbors and seemed to realize for the first time that this wasn't a private conversation. Can we please go inside and talk about this like adults? I looked at her for a long moment. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 10 years, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe this was just a drunk mistake, that we could work through it. But then I remembered the laughter in that video, the way she'd looked directly into the camera when she called me a 3, the comments from people we knew, people who would never look at me the same way again. You want to talk like adults? I said. Adults don't humiliate their spouses in front of thousands of people. Adults don't rate their partners like they're judging a dog show. Adults don't broadcast their marriage problems for entertainment. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, Melissa. I watched the video. Hell, half the neighborhood watched the video based on the comments. Mrs. Patterson, you saw it, right? Our elderly neighbor nodded grimly. I'm afraid I did, dear. My granddaughter sent me the link. Melissa's face went white. Mrs. Patterson, Don't, I interrupted. Just don't. You said what you said. You meant what you meant. The only thing you're sorry about is that I found out. She started crying then, big, dramatic sobs that might have worked on me 6 months ago. Now they just seemed performative, like everything else about her social media life. Please, Dave, I love you. I made a mistake. You love me? I laughed, and again it came out harder than I intended. You love me like a safety net, like a backup plan, like a reliable Honda Civic when what you really want is a Ferrari. That's not true. Then why haven't you deleted the video? She froze. What? The Instagram Live. It's still up. If you were really sorry, if you really thought it was a mistake, wouldn't your first instinct be to delete it? But it's still there, Melissa. Still getting comments, still getting shares. She fumbled for her phone, and I could see the moment she realized I was right. The video was still up, still public, still destroying what was left of my dignity. I was trying to get home. I wasn't thinking about... You weren't thinking about me, I finished. Just like you weren't thinking about me when you decided to rate me for your friend's entertainment. Just like you're not thinking about me now, you're thinking about damage control. I walked over to where she was standing and looked her in the eyes. Up close, I could smell the alcohol on her breath, see the mascara streaks on her cheeks. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly, so the neighbors couldn't hear. You're going to gather up your things from the yard. You're going to call one of your friends to pick you up, and you're going to find somewhere else to sleep tonight. Dave, no. This is my home too. Your home? When's the last time you called this place home instead of Dave's house? When's the last time you brought friends here instead of meeting them out? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be here instead of just using it as a place to sleep between social events? She didn't have an answer for that. I'll stay at Brittany's, she said finally. Good choice. I'm sure she'll love hearing all about what a psychotic asshole I am. Make sure to rate my performance tonight. I'm hoping for at least a 4. She gathered up what she could carry, stuffing designer clothes into shopping bags from her car. I watched her struggle with an armload of shoes and felt nothing. No urge to help, no pity, no residual love, just cold satisfaction. When she was done, she stood by the car that was still waiting for her and looked back at me. "This isn't over, Dave." "Yes," I said, "it is." I watched her drive away, then spent the next hour picking up the clothes she'd left behind. Some of the neighbors came over to help, which was both embarrassing and oddly touching. Mrs. Patterson brought me a cup of coffee. Harold helped me carry the heavier items. "You know," he said as we loaded up a garbage bag with designer purses, "I never liked her much. Always seemed like she thought she was better than the rest of us." "She probably was," I said, "at least according to Instagram." By 2 a.m. the yard was clean and the house was quiet. I sat in my living room, still holding my phone, watching the notifications pile up. The Facebook post had been shared 47 times. The Instagram video of Melissa's meltdown was getting hundreds of views. My brother had left 3 voicemails. My mom had sent a text that just said, "Call me." Melissa's sister had sent a message calling me every name in the book, but I didn't feel like talking to anyone. Instead, I opened a beer, put on some music, and started planning my next move. Because this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I woke up the next morning feeling better than I had in months. No Melissa hogging the bathroom for an hour doing her makeup routine. No passive-aggressive comments about my coffee breath or the way I left dishes in the sink. Just silence, sunlight through the bedroom window, and the strange luxury of not having to consider anyone else's feelings. My phone had been buzzing all night. 43 missed calls, over 100 text messages, and enough social media notifications to crash a smaller device. I scrolled through them while drinking coffee from my favorite mug. The one Melissa always said was too big and made me look like a caveman. Most of the messages fell into predictable categories. Friends and family wanting to know what happened, co-workers who'd seen the social media drama, and a surprising number of people offering support. My buddy Joel from the bar where I sometimes grabbed drinks had sent a text at 3 a.m. "Saw the video. She's trash, man. You dodged a bullet." But it was the message from Brittany that caught my attention. "Dave, we need to talk. There's stuff you don't know. Meet me at Corner Coffee at 2 p.m. Come alone." Interesting. Brittany had been one of Melissa's closest friends for years, part of the inner circle that I'd always felt excluded from. If she wanted to meet, it meant either she was going to try to convince me to take Melissa back, or she had information she thought I needed. I spent the morning doing normal Saturday things that felt revolutionary in their simplicity. I watched SportsCenter without anyone complaining about toxic masculinity. I ate cereal straight from the box without getting lectured about portion control. I left my dishes in the sink and felt like a rebel. Around noon, I decided to do some reconnaissance. I drove by Melissa's office building, not sure what I was looking for, but curious about her world outside our marriage. The marketing agency where she worked occupied the 3rd floor of a trendy building downtown, all glass and steel and the kind of modern architecture that looked expensive and uncomfortable. I parked across the street and called the main number. "Pinnacle Marketing, this is Jessica." "Hi, I'm trying to reach Melissa Carter. This is her husband." "Oh, I'm sorry, but Melissa called in sick today. Can I take a message?" Sick. Right. Probably hungover and dealing with the fallout from last night's performance. "No message. Thanks." I hung up and sat in my car, watching people go in and out of the building. Young, attractive, well-dressed people who looked like they'd stepped out of a lifestyle blog. Melissa's people. The kind of people who rated other humans like restaurant reviews and thought it was entertaining. At 1:45, I drove to Corner Coffee, a hipster place downtown that served $20 coffee drinks with names I couldn't pronounce. Brittany was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking like she hadn't slept much either. She was 29, but looked older today. Her usually perfect makeup minimal, and her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She waved me over nervously. "Dave? Thanks for coming." I slid into the booth across from her and studied her face. Brittany had never been particularly friendly to me, but she'd never been openly hostile either. She was just part of Melissa's world that I was tolerated in, but never truly welcomed into. "So," I said, "what's this about?" She fidgeted with her coffee cup, not making eye contact. "Last night was terrible. I mean what Melissa said. It was way over the line. But nothing. It was wrong. You didn't deserve that." I waited. There was clearly more. "The thing is," she continued, "there's stuff you should know. About Melissa, about what's been going on." "What kind of stuff?" Brittany pulled out her phone and showed me a group chat. The participants were her, Melissa, Alicia, and Tara. The chat was called Girls' Night Secrets and had hundreds of messages going back months. "I'm going to show you some things," she said, "and you're not going to like them, but I think you deserve to know the truth." She scrolled up to a conversation from 3 weeks ago. Melissa: "God, Dave is driving me crazy. He wanted to sleep with me last night, and I literally pretended to be asleep." Tara: "You? Why?" "Just get it over with, Melissa. Because it's boring. Same position, same routine, same everything. I just lay there thinking about grocery lists." Alicia: "That's so sad." LOL, Melissa. "I know, right? Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone who actually knew what they were doing." My stomach clenched, but I kept reading. Brittany: "Maybe you should talk to him about it." Melissa: "And say what? Hey, honey, you're terrible in bed and I fantasize about other men. That'll go over well." Tara: "You could always find out what you're missing, Melissa. Don't tempt me." I looked up at Brittany. "How long has she been talking like this?" "Months. Maybe longer. Dave, I'm sorry. I should have said something before." She scrolled down to more recent messages, screenshots of dating app profiles, comments about guys at the gym, at work, at bars. My wife had been living a completely separate life in this group chat, and I'd had no idea. Then Brittany showed me something that made my blood run cold. A photo taken last Tuesday while I was at work. Melissa in our bed, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before, with a caption: "Bought this for someone who would appreciate it. Too bad I'm stuck with someone who thinks romance is remembering to put the toilet seat down." "She posted this in the group chat?" I asked. "Yeah. And Dave, there's more." She scrolled to a conversation from last weekend. Melissa: "Dave's working late again. Perfect timing." Alicia: "For what?" Melissa: "Let's just say I'm not spending the evening alone." Tara: "OMG, are you serious? You're actually doing it?" Melissa: "A girl has needs, and if my husband can't meet them..." Brittany: "Mel, be careful. This could get messy." Melissa: "Only if he finds out. And Dave's too trusting to suspect anything." I stared at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. "She's cheating on me." "I don't know for sure," Brittany said quickly. "I mean, she talks a big game, but..." "Who is it?" Brittany hesitated. "I don't know if I should..." "Brittany." I looked her in the eyes. "My wife humiliated me in front of thousands of people last night. She's been trashing me to you guys for months. She's apparently been cheating on me. I think I deserve to know who with." She sighed and scrolled to another part of the chat. A screenshot of an Instagram profile. Chad Reynolds, 32, personal trainer and gym owner. Shirtless photos, motivational quotes about fitness and success, the kind of aggressively masculine social media presence that screamed insecurity, masked as confidence. "His gym is called Elite Fitness," Brittany said. "It's about 10 minutes from your house. Melissa joined 3 months ago." I studied the photos. Chad was everything I wasn't. Tall, muscular, tan, with the kind of jawline that belonged in cologne advertisements. He looked like he rated himself a solid 10 and expected everyone else to agree. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know exactly. The flirting started a couple months ago, but last weekend was the first time she, you know, said she wasn't spending the evening alone." "Yeah." I handed her phone back and sat in silence for a moment, processing everything. My marriage wasn't just over. It had been over for months, and I'd been too stupid or too trusting to see it. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked finally. Brittany looked uncomfortable. "Because what happened last night was my fault too. I was drunk, I was encouraging her, I thought it was just harmless girl talk. I didn't think about how it would affect you. And when I saw your Facebook post, saw how hurt you were, I realized we'd been treating you like shit for months." "We?" "All of us. In the group chat, when we went out, the way we talked about you. Like you were this boring obligation Melissa had to deal with instead of her husband. It wasn't right." I nodded. At least someone had a conscience. "There's one more thing," she said. "Melissa's planning to come back to the house today. She thinks if she apologizes enough, if she cries enough, she can fix this. She doesn't know that I'm here talking to you." "What time?" "Around 4. She's at my place right now, practicing what she's going to say." I checked my watch. It was almost 3 p.m. "Brittany," I said, standing up, "I need you to do me a favor." "What?" "I need Chad's address." She looked alarmed. "Dave, don't do anything crazy. He's a big guy. And if you try to fight him—" "I'm not going to fight him," I said. "I'm going to introduce myself." She reluctantly gave me the address, an upscale apartment complex about 15 minutes away. I thanked her and headed for the door. "Dave," she called after me. "For what it's worth, I always thought Melissa was lucky to have you. You deserve better than this." I nodded and walked out into the afternoon sunlight, my mind already working on a plan. It was time to meet the man who'd made my wife's heart race. Chad Reynolds lived in Riverside Towers, one of those modern apartment complexes that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd never actually lived in an apartment. All glass and steel and balconies that were too small to use for anything except displaying potted plants that would die within a month. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, watching people come and go. Young professionals with yoga mats and protein shakes, the kind of people who posted gym selfies and talked about crushing their goals. Chad's people. His apartment was on the 3rd floor. I'd looked him up online during the drive over. Elite Fitness had a website full of before and after photos and testimonials about transformation journeys. Chad's bio described him as a certified personal trainer and life coach, dedicated to helping clients achieve their peak physical and mental potential. What it didn't mention was that he was also dedicated to sleeping with his married clients. At 3:30, I took the elevator up to the 3rd floor and knocked on apartment 3B. I could hear music playing inside, some kind of electronic workout mix that was probably supposed to be motivating. The door opened, and I got my first real look at the man who'd been screwing my wife. Chad was exactly what I'd expected from his photos. Tall, muscular, with the kind of perfect hair that required more product than most women used. He was wearing a tank top that showed off his arms and shorts that showed off his legs. Everything about him screamed, "Look at me." "Can I help you?" he asked, looking me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "I'm Dave Carter," I said, "Melissa's husband." His face went white. For a second, I thought he might try to slam the door, but instead he stepped back and gestured for me to come in. The apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Minimalist furniture, protein powder containers on every surface, and gym equipment scattered around like expensive paperweights. The walls were covered with photos of Chad in various states of undress, flexing for the camera. "Look, man," he said, closing the door behind me. "I don't know what Melissa told you, but—" "She didn't tell me anything," I interrupted. "I found out from her friends, about the gym, about the late-night workouts, about last weekend when she wasn't spending the evening alone." He ran a hand through his perfect hair, and looked like he was calculating his options. "It's not what you think," he said finally. "Really? What is it then?" "It's complicated." I laughed. "Complicated? You're sleeping with my wife, Chad. That's not complicated. That's just adultery." He flinched at the word. "She said you guys were having problems. She said the marriage was basically over." "Did she? When did she say that? Before or after you started training her?" "Look, I never meant for this to happen. She was just a client at first. But then we started talking, and she seemed so unhappy. So you decided to help her out? What a humanitarian." Chad's jaw tightened. "You don't understand. Melissa's an amazing woman. She's beautiful, successful, full of life. She deserves someone who appreciates her." "Someone like you?" "Someone who makes her feel alive. She told me about your marriage, man. When's the last time you took her somewhere exciting? When's the last time you surprised her, or made her laugh, or made her feel like she was worth fighting for?" The words hit harder than I'd expected, mostly because there was some truth in them. When had I stopped trying? When had our marriage become a routine instead of a relationship? But then I remembered the group chat messages, the Instagram video, the months of lies and humiliation. "You're right," I said. "I wasn't a perfect husband. But you know what I was? Faithful. Honest. I never rated her for other people's entertainment. I never talked shit about her to my friends. I never made her feel like she wasn't good enough." That's exactly what she did to me, Chad. And you helped her do it. You gave her somewhere to go when she wanted to escape her boring life with her boring husband. You made her feel justified in treating me like garbage. Chad looked uncomfortable. I didn't know she was doing that. Bullshit. You knew she was married. You knew she was lying to me every time she came here. You just didn't care because it got you what you wanted. He was quiet for a moment, then looked me in the eyes. "What do you want, Dave? You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. It shouldn't have happened. But it did happen, and I'm not going to pretend I regret it." "Why not?" "Because I love her." The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Chad straightened up, and I could see him trying to project confidence, trying to intimidate me with his size and his perfect abs and his protein powder lifestyle. "I love her," he repeated, "and she loves me. What you two had, that wasn't love. That was just convenience. She settled for you because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. But now she knows what it feels like to be with someone who actually wants her. Is that what she told you?" "That's what I see every time she's here. She's happy, Dave. Really happy. Maybe for the first time in years." I nodded slowly. "Well, then I guess you won't mind if I tell you that she's coming home in about 30 minutes to beg me to take her back." Chad's confident expression faltered. "What?" "She called in sick to work today. She's been at her friend's place all morning, practicing her apology speech. According to Brittany, she thinks if she cries enough and promises it'll never happen again, she can save our marriage." "That's not... She wouldn't do that." "Wouldn't she? Chad, you're the side piece, the exciting distraction, the guy who makes her heart race. But I'm the one with the house, the stable income, the health insurance. I'm the safety net she married." I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "She rated me a 3 out of 10 last night," I continued. "But you know what? A 3 who pays the bills is still better than a 10 who lives in a rented apartment and sells gym memberships for a living." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? When's the last time she stayed here overnight? When's the last time you two went out in public together? When's the last time she posted a photo with you on her Instagram?" Chad didn't answer. "She's been using both of us, buddy. You for excitement, me for security. But now that her secret's out, now that she might actually face consequences, who do you think she's going to choose?" I walked toward the door, then turned back. "By the way, you might want to find a new gym. I'm thinking about joining Elite Fitness. I hear they have great personal attention." I left Chad standing in his perfect apartment, looking like someone had just explained to him that his protein powder was actually just expensive chocolate milk. 20 minutes later, I was home, waiting for my wife to come crawling back. Melissa arrived at exactly 4 o'clock, just like Brittany had predicted. I watched from the living room window as she got out of her car, her own car this time, not an Uber, and stood in the driveway for a full minute, staring at the house like she was gathering courage. She'd clearly spent time preparing for this. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, and she was wearing the blue dress I'd always said was my favorite. She looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 10 years ago, which I'm sure was exactly the point. I opened the door before she could knock. "Hi," she said softly. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside and let her pass. She smelled like the expensive perfume she wore for special occasions, another calculated detail in her campaign to win me back. We sat in the living room, on opposite ends of the couch that we'd picked out together when we first moved in. She folded her hands in her lap and looked at me with eyes that were already starting to well up with tears. "Dave, I'm so sorry," she began. "Last night was the worst mistake of my life. I was drunk, I was being stupid, I was trying to fit in with the girls, and I said things I didn't mean. Horrible things that I will regret for the rest of my life. It was a good speech, probably rehearsed, but delivered with what seemed like genuine emotion. I love you," she continued. "I have always loved you. You're my husband, my partner, my best friend. What I said last night doesn't reflect how I really feel about you or about our marriage. Doesn't it?" "No, God, no. Dave, you're not a 3. You're not any number because you can't rate someone you love like that. It was a stupid game, and I got caught up in it. And I'm so sorry." The tears were flowing now, and she reached across the couch to take my hand. I let her, curious to see how far she'd go with this performance. "I know I hurt you," she said. "I know I embarrassed you. I know I damaged our marriage. But please, please don't let one drunken mistake destroy 10 years together. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can take a vacation. We can do whatever it takes to fix this. What about Chad?" She froze, her hand still holding mine. "What about who?" "Chad Reynolds, Elite Fitness, your personal trainer and life coach." The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? You don't know Chad? Tall guy, muscles, lives at Riverside Towers? That guy you've been sleeping with for the last month?" She jerked her hand back like I'd burned her. "That's not—" "Who told you that?" "Does it matter? Is it true?" She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out how much I knew, how much she could still deny. "It's not what you think," she said finally. "It never is, apparently. That's what Chad said, too." "You talked to Chad?" "Just came from his place, actually. Nice apartment. Lots of mirrors. I can see the appeal." Melissa started crying harder, but now it looked less like remorse and more like panic. "Dave, please. It was a mistake. A stupid, meaningless mistake. It didn't mean anything." "Meaningless? That's not what your group chat says?" Her eyes went wide. "My what?" "Girls' night secrets. Brittany showed me the whole thing. Months of messages about your boring husband and your exciting trainer. Screenshots of dating profiles. Photos of lingerie you bought for someone who would appreciate it." She looked like she was going to be sick. "You want to know what really hurts?" I continued. "It's not the cheating. It's the fact that you've been lying to me for months. Not just lying, actively making fun of me. Sharing intimate details about our marriage with your friends so you could all laugh about what a pathetic loser I am. That's not—" "It's exactly that, Melissa. You turned our marriage into entertainment for your group chat. You made me the punchline of jokes I didn't even know were being told." She was sobbing now, mascara running down her cheeks, the perfect makeup job ruined. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry. Please, Dave, please forgive me. I'll do anything. Anything? Anything. I'll delete all my social media. I'll quit the gym. I'll never see Chad again. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. I looked at my wife, my beautiful, successful, social media-obsessed wife, and felt nothing but pity. Melissa, I said gently, do you actually want to be married to me? Yes, of course I do. Not because I'm safe or stable or good with money. Not because I pay the bills or provide health insurance. Do you actually want to be married to me? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. When's the last time you were excited to see me come home from work? I asked. When was the last time you asked me to sleep with you because you wanted me and not because you felt obligated? When's the last time you posted a photo of us together on Instagram? She couldn't answer any of those questions. Here's what I think happened, I said. You married me because I was the responsible choice, the guy who would take care of you, who wouldn't cheat or leave or break your heart. But you never stopped wanting excitement. You never stopped wanting to feel desired by someone who made your heart race. That's not true, isn't it? Melissa, if Chad asked you to move in with him tomorrow, if he offered you everything I offer plus the excitement you've been craving, would you choose him or me? She was quiet for a long time. I would choose you, she said finally, but her voice lacked conviction. Even if it meant giving up the way he makes you feel? Even if it meant going back to boring Dave and his boring life and his boring love? More silence. The thing is, I said, I don't want to be anyone's safety net. I don't want to be the consolation prize you settle for because the exciting guy isn't offering marriage and health insurance. I want to be someone's first choice, not their fallback plan. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our neighborhood, our life, our carefully constructed middle-class existence. I'm filing for divorce, I said without turning around. Dave, no, please. It's already done. I called a lawyer this morning. You'll get the papers next week. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I turned back to face her. Melissa, last night you told 12,000 people that I was a 3 out of 10 and that you married me because I was safe. This morning I found out you've been cheating on me and mocking our marriage to your friends for months. What exactly is there to work out? I love you. No, you don't. You love the life I provide. You love having someone to pay half the bills and listen to your problems and make you feel like a good person for staying faithful to your boring husband. But you don't love me. She started to protest, but I held up my hand. And you know what? That's okay. Because I don't think I love you anymore either. The words surprised me as much as they surprised her. But as soon as I said them, I knew they were true. I love the person I thought you were, I continued. I love the woman who wouldn't humiliate her husband for entertainment. I love the woman who wouldn't lie and cheat and then cry about getting caught. But that woman doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. Melissa sat on our couch in our living room, wearing my favorite dress, and looked like a stranger. So what now? She asked. Now you pack whatever you didn't take last night. You find somewhere else to live. You figure out if Chad is actually offering you a future or just a good time. And you let me figure out what it's like to be someone's first choice instead of their backup plan. She nodded slowly, accepting defeat. For what it's worth, she said, you were never a 3. That was just, I don't know, showing off, trying to be funny. I know, I said. But the fact that you thought it was funny to rate your husband for other people's entertainment tells me everything I need to know about what you really think of me. She went upstairs to pack, and I sat in the living room listening to her move around in our bedroom, opening drawers and closets, gathering up the pieces of her life that she'd scattered through our house. When she came back down with 2 suitcases, she paused at the door. I really am sorry, Dave, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. She nodded and walked out to her car. I watched from the window as she loaded her bags, got behind the wheel, and drove away from our marriage. Then I opened a beer, sat back down on the couch, and started planning the rest of my life. For the first time in months, I felt like I was worth more than a 3 out of 10. I felt like I was worth everything,